Hi everybody, welcome to your video recording. This is Miss A talking, in case you don't recognize my voice. I am going to take you through a short video today. You can pause it at any time, and while you watch the video, please fill in the notes. If you don't have the notes yet, please pause and go into Schoology and grab a copy of the notes. And in case you're not sure about the notes, what they are, where they are, they should look something like this. The link is in Schoology. If you can't find them, please pause the video and contact me so I can help you. Once you have found them, you can, as always, make a copy or download them or just use them as a guide and make the notes yourself in your notebook on a piece of paper. The choice is yours, but you will be submitting them after you finish watching this video. Alrighty, let's get on with the show. What is the purpose of the legislative branch? The legislative branch is one of the three branches of government, and it is the branch of government that makes the laws. It makes laws based upon the wishes of their constituents and the congressional district. What are constituents? Constituents are the citizens that a member of Congress represents, aka people. And congressional districts is the area of the state that a member of the House represents. A district's size and boundary is determined by its population from the census, and that is very important. A census is a population count taken every 10 years. You will see a census coming around, and it will be very important that everyone in your household fills it in, because gerrymandering can occur, which is the redrawing of a district boundary to benefit a particular party, and they can redraw their district boundaries based on information from the census. So it is very important that the census is accurate. Here is our California congressional district map. So you can see the different areas. Some are much bigger than others, and that has to do with population size, as well as other factors in determining what the lines are. So we can see the different congressional districts, right? Here I am down in San Diego. I'm a little bit cut off actually. So there are the different congressional districts of California. Congress is also influenced by interest groups and lobbyists. Interest groups are groups of people with similar interests trying to sway legislatures. Some examples are the NAACP, the NRA, the NOW, the NEA, and the AARP. I'm sure at least one of those looks familiar to you. If not, feel free to look one up. But they have specific interests, and they try to get the legislatures to either block a bill or pass a bill that will positively affect them. Lobbyists are people hired by the interest groups that help to lead and represent them, and they make a lot of money. So if you want a future where you can make a lot of money in politics, you can become a lobbyist. If you're successful, it can be very profitable. A lot of people don't like lobbyists because they are hired people who can sway Congress to go one way or another, and that might not effectively represent all of the people in that congressional district. Here's a picture from Washington, D.C. And it shows where Congress meets. So Congress, or the legislature, meets at the U.S. Capitol building. That's the building you see right here in Washington, D.C. And it is bicameral, which means it has two chambers or houses. Now we'll find out some information on the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives is considered the lower house. The term is 2 years. You have to be at least 25 years old. The number of members is determined by the state's population. So states with a larger population have more members in the House than ones with smaller populations. Each state has at least one member. And how many members do you think California has? Please pause the recording and go and find out. And I will see if it's filled in correctly on your paper. These two women hopefully are somewhat familiar to you. If not, it's time to familiarize yourselves with them. They are our senators in California. The Senate is considered the upper house. The term is 6 years. You have to be at least 30 years old to be a senator. And the number of members is equal for each state. Each state has 2 senators, which brings the total members in the Senate to an even 100. Leadership. An important leadership positions are determined by the political party with the most members. Does that seem fair to you? You can let me know. The majority party is the political party with the most members. And the minority party is the political party with the second most members. In the United States currently, when we really only have 2 strong parties, to say second most might seem a little silly, but that could always change. There is no law saying there can only be 2 political parties. The majority leader helps plan and guide the majority party's legislative strategies, and the minority leader helps plan and guide the minority party's legislative strategies. And this can change, as you know, every 2 years in the House or the Senate, because even though senators have a 6-year term, their terms come up at different times. The majority whip is the assistant to the majority leader. The minority whip is the assistant to the minority leader. Both houses have a majority and a minority leader and whip. Nancy Pelosi. She should look familiar to you. She is the leader of the House of Representatives. She is the Speaker of the House. She is the Chief Presiding Officer of the House of Representatives. That is the highest ranking position in the legislative branch. It always is a member of the majority party and is chosen by the majority party. So her party chooses her. In this case, she is a Democrat. The Speaker of the House leads floor discussion, keeps order, guides bills, and appoints committee leaders. She is a regular voting member of the House. And she is third in line for presidential succession. So she is the third most important person in terms of the leadership structure, right? If something happened to the president, or the president was somehow incapacitated, then the vice president could temporarily take over as the president, and the Speaker of the House would move into the vice presidential role. There's very key lines of succession there. Or if for some reason the vice president was incapacitated, died, anything like that, then the Speaker of the House would move into that line. All right, the Senate leadership. The President of the Senate is the Chief Presiding Officer of the Senate. This person is the current Vice President of the United States. So one of Mike Pence, who is the current Vice President, one of his roles is to be in the role of Vice President, is the President of the Senate. He keeps order on the floor and guides discussion. They cannot debate or discuss any bills. So you can see that the Senate leadership has a very different role than the House of Representatives leadership. They can only vote to break a tie. So they can often be called upon to come over into a debate after a vote has happened and to break a tie. Other than those few circumstances when they have to come over to break a tie, it's primarily now a ceremonial position. And I'm sorry, this is a very blurry picture of Chuck Grassley. President pro tempore presides over the Senate when the vice president is absent, which is most of the time, right? The vice president typically has many other duties to attend to and is usually only called to come over if there is a tie, or if they predict there might be a tie. Pro tempore means for the time being and is a temporary substitute position, officially, but unofficially, they have more of a role. They assume the same ceremonial duties as the president of the Senate. They are typically a member of the majority party, which in this case is correct because Chuck Grassley is a Republican. They're fourth in line for presidential succession, so they're next after the Speaker of the House. And the majority leader of the Senate often has the most impactful influence. The majority leader of the Senate is Mitch McConnell, and you can learn more about him. And the minority leader of the Senate, does anybody know? Is Chuck Schumer. And you'll hear a lot about them if you're following the news. They were definitely a lot in the news during the impeachment trial last month. Committees. Committees feature members of Congress in formed groups to work on bills. A standing committee is permanent and is used every term. Some examples of these are agriculture, education, energy and commerce, armed services, things that are always needed. Select committees are a special committee for a specific issue and have a limited time frame. So that might be for an investigation, a threat, a political issue. For example, impeachment. Then there are joint committees, groups consisting of members from both houses. They iron out similar bills from each house or any time both houses are involved. Most committee leaders are chosen by seniority rule. Members who have served longer get the top leadership positions. So that's why you want to stay in these roles for a long time so you can have a real influence on some of these committees. Powers of Congress. Article 1, Section 8 explains the majority of powers that Congress has. They have expressed powers, which are congressional powers that are clearly stated in the Constitution. Implied powers, congressional powers that are not clearly stated in the Constitution. For example, the Elastic Clause, a clause in the Constitution that gives Congress the ability to stretch its powers to make any laws that are, quote, necessary and proper. Legislative powers that are powers that create legislation or laws. For example, collecting taxes, power to borrow money, regulate trade, declare war, rules about naturalization. Non-legislative powers are powers that do not create legislation or laws. Confirm or reject presidential appointments, propose amendments to the Constitution, admit new states to the Union, and impeach the president. And we all know now, after what we've been through the last couple months, to impeach means to charge an official with misconduct. Doesn't have to be the president. All right, we are at the end of our first portion, so please take a moment, go get yourself a drink of water, and we will pick up where we left off on part 2. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in part 2 real soon.